speaking of fans of the Knicks.
This will be fun. We bring in Stephen A. Smith now to talk to us about this. And Stephen A., as now you've had a little more time to sort of soak all this in and think through it. What's your reaction to the Porzingis trade?
Well, listen, I'm not as down on it as everybody else is. Don't get me wrong. Make no mistake about it. The New York Knicks have been a disaster for far too long. Since 2001, they've only had really 2 winning seasons as far as I'm concerned. They won an Atlantic Division crown a few years ago with Carmelo Anthony, with Mike Woodson as the head coach, and they had a 42-40 season. Outside of that, they've been under 500 religiously. They've been moribund. They've been pathetic. We all know that. And so when you are accustomed to it and you see something like this, the immediate reaction is to be negative. Why? Because Kristaps Porzingis is 7'3". He can ball. He can play when healthy. There is no question about that. And you don't see anybody clamoring to come to the New York Knicks of that caliber of player. So that is definitely reason to have reservations. But then when you take into account the fact that he's been hurt since last year, he hasn't played the game this season. This summer, free agency is a huge, huge deal with the New York Knicks, the star of your franchise, who is supposed to be somebody that's going to assist you in attracting a marquee free agent, is not only telling you he doesn't want to be there, but giving indications that that's the kind of impression that he's going to make sure to disseminate. If you are the New York Knicks, you're in an incredible bond, because as you approach this summer, when you're talking about attracting those free agents, how are you going to pull it off when the guy that people will want to come and play with is telling you he has no intentions of staying? So the New York Knicks were under the gun. They recognize that. And not only that, we have to take into account the fact that the Brooklyn Nets are balling. They're 3 games over 500 at least, okay? And this is devoid of a star. Plus, they intend on having space for 2 max players. If you are the Knicks, you can't lose out in free agency to the Brooklyn Nets. You got to do everything you can to make sure you offset that. So I understand the move being made off of that premise. I'm not excited about it because obviously James Dolan is still overseeing the New York Knicks franchise. But Scott Perry is known for having relationships with players, particularly Kevin Durant, by the way. And Steve Mills has done a great job of ingratiating himself with agents. Not to say that they're going to have a profound influence, but you never know what kind of influence they'll wield when all is said and done with these max caliber players. So we shall see.
All right, so give us a sense of which one you think they have the best chance of getting. KD, Kyrie, Kemba Walker, who's a New York kid. Give me the one guy you think they have a real chance to get.
I think they have a real good chance of getting Kyrie Irving, because if you listen to his camp, although they'll say he's happy in Boston, you listen to people outside and they say, no, that's not the case. That's not the scuttlebutt around the NBA. Kyrie Irving would be looking to leave Boston. Obviously, Boston was talking about trying to make a trade for Anthony Davis. Well, Anthony Davis ain't that interested in going to Boston if Kyrie Irving isn't there. So you've got that situation. Remember when Kyrie Irving looked at the fans in Boston and said, I want to be here if you'll have me. Those operative words, if you'll have me, are paramount. Why? Because that means, are you willing to give him max dollars at $190 million if you're Danny Ainge and you already got the Browns, the Tatums, the Gordon Haywards that you may not be able to get rid of with his $131 million salary, Al Horford and other guys. You're not going to be able to get rid of, those guys, or rather keep those guys while giving Kyrie Irving this money, or you may not feel it's necessary to do so when you've got a guy like Terry Rozier and Marcus Smart who you just gave $52 million to. So when you look at it from that perspective, Kyrie would possibly leave. I look at Kevin Durant, and I say this. If the Golden State Warriors lose the championship for any reason, I think Kevin Durant stays. If they win and he's won 3 straight, I think he leaves. And I also know that folks in his camp have been telling the New York Knicks that they have a shot. How legitimate that is remains to be seen. But he does have a long-standing relationship, a very good relationship with Scott Perry. So I look at it, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, with Kyrie Irving being more plausible as an individual, but highly likely to go to New York if Kevin Durant commits to going to New York. So that's what makes it interesting right now. But they still have to compete with the Nets. They have to compete with the Clippers. And to a lesser degree, they may have to compete with the Lakers.